Hey everyone. Sometimes life just kind of throws you a curveball, and you realize that it's time to get serious about something that most of us put off for way too long:
Yeah,
estate planning. Am I right?
definitely.
So, whether you're starting a family, buying a home, or maybe you just want that peace of mind knowing your affairs are in order, this deep dive is definitely for you.
It is. It's one of those things, people really put off, but it's such a huge gift to yourself and your loved ones.
Absolutely. And the good thing is, it doesn't have to be a daunting task.
No.
We're diving into a great guide today called Estate Planning Made Simple, a step-by-step guide to protecting your legacy
Hmm.
by Josh McKinnon. And one of the things that I really like about this is that it's written by a fellow Albertan, a
Right.
realtor no less, who realized the importance of estate planning
Yeah.
after becoming a parent.
It's a very relatable story, and he even shares how he wouldn't leave the house without a will in place after his child was born. So it really kind of highlights that personal touch.
Yeah.
This isn't just about protecting your stuff, but it's about protecting the people you love most.
Right. So peace of mind, protecting loved ones. What else does this guide highlight as kind of key benefits for us here in Alberta?
Well, one thing that really jumped out at me was
Yeah.
minimizing costs and taxes,
Of course.
which is something we all want, right?
Yeah.
And he also talks about, the pitfalls of not having a plan in place,
Okay.
like Alberta's intestacy laws, which basically determine how your assets are distributed
Oh,
if you haven't outlined your wishes.
wait, so the government could decide who gets like my prize vinyl collection if I
Right.
don't have a will? That's news to me.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be your vinyl collection specifically,
Right.
but the point is, wouldn't you rather have a say
Yes,
in who inherits what?
absolutely.
And it also can minimize family drama,
Oh, always a plus in my books.
right? And make sure your wishes are honored.
Okay, so where do we even begin? Like, this still seems pretty complex.
Well, he actually breaks it down into 6 manageable steps.
Okay.
So first, it's all about setting clear goals, like what matters to you in this process.
Okay.
Then you take stock of your assets and liabilities,
Mm-hmm.
basically what you own and what you owe.
So kind of like you're taking inventory before you organize a closet,
Exactly.
before your whole life.
For your entire life.
Okay.
Then you identify your beneficiaries,
Mm-hmm.
the people or organizations who will inherit. And that can be a little bit emotional, but it's really crucial to be clear about your intentions.
Okay, so we've got goals, assets, beneficiaries. What's next?
So then he talks about assembling your A team.
Okay.
So you've got your estate lawyer, you might want a financial planner, maybe a tax advisor.
Mhm.
Don't worry, he gives you tips on how to choose the right people.
Perfect.
And then you document your wishes in the official documents, wills, trusts, healthcare directives, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And you communicate your plan with your family.
Gotcha.
So having those conversations can really prevent a lot of heartache down the road.
Those are way less intimidating than I imagined,
Yes.
those steps. So we laid the groundwork.
Yeah.
What are the estate planning basics we absolutely need to understand?
So McKinnon dives deep into the core components in Chapter 4,
Okay.
and starting with wills.
Okay.
So in Alberta, a will lets you decide exactly how your assets are distributed,
Mm-hmm.
but you can also appoint an executor
Okay.
who's someone you trust to carry out your wishes. So it's like choosing a captain for your legacy ship.
Makes a lot of sense. What happens if I don't have a will? Does my stuff just like magically float off into the ether?
Not quite, no.
Okay.
That's where Alberta's intestacy laws come in.
Okay.
And if you don't have a will, the government basically steps in and follows a set of rules to determine how your assets are divided,
Oh, okay.
which, it might not align with your wishes. And it can lead to delays and extra costs for your loved ones.
Yikes. I definitely don't want the government deciding who gets my vintage record player. So besides a will, what other tools are kind of in our estate planning arsenal?
Well, trusts are another powerful option,
Okay.
and they can be used to manage assets for beneficiaries,
Hmm.
potentially reducing taxes and even bypassing probate.
Hold on. Bypassing probate.
Yes.
Okay, you've piqued my interest. What's the deal with probate in Alberta?
So McKinnon explains it all in Chapter 34.
Okay.
And basically, probate is the legal process of validating your will and distributing your assets after you die.
Okay.
It's handled by the courts,
Uh-huh.
and it can involve delays, costs, and, your affairs becoming public record.
Oh, yikes. Not exactly ideal.
Uh-huh.
So trust can help us avoid that whole probate mess.
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
So assets held in a trust are distributed outside of probate, which can save your loved ones time, money, and stress.
Okay, trusts are officially on my radar. But what if I'm alive and well, but suddenly unable to manage my own affairs, let's say? I get swept away by a rogue wave while surfing in Tofino.
That could happen.
You never know.
That could happen. So that's where a power of attorney or POA comes in.
Okay.
And you appoint someone you trust to make financial and legal decisions on your behalf if you become incapacitated.
So, like, if I'm stuck in a hospital bed and can't remember my online birthing password,
Exactly.
my POA can just step in and take care of things.
Exactly. So he stresses the importance of choosing someone you trust implicitly for this role.
Right.
And he explains the different types of POAs, general, enduring, and limited, so you can kind of tailor it to your specific needs.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these different pieces fit together.
Yes.
What else should we know about these kind of essential estate planning tools?
So McKinnon also highlights the importance of healthcare directives. They're called personal directives in Alberta.
Okay.
And those outline your medical preferences if you're unable to communicate them yourself. Like, whether you want life-sustaining treatment or not.
Right.
And you can even appoint a healthcare proxy to make medical decisions on your behalf.
Wow, that really takes a burden off your loved ones during a really difficult time.
Yes.
So we've got wills, trusts, POAs, healthcare directives. Are we missing anything?
Beneficiary designations are also crucial.
Okay.
Those ensure specific assets, like life insurance policies or retirement funds, go directly to the intended person, bypassing probate. So it's like an express lane for your assets.
Okay, so we've covered the basics. Wills, trusts, POAs, healthcare directives, beneficiary designations. Phew. I'm already feeling more informed, but I'm wondering how all this applies specifically to real estate.
Ah, real estate. So that's where McKinnon's expertise as a realtor really shines.
Okay.
He dedicates a whole section 2,
Wow.
to managing real estate in your estate plan.
Okay, let's talk property. What are some key takeaways Albertans should know about incorporating real estate into their estate plans?
So one thing that's kind of unique to Alberta
Okay.
is you can potentially avoid probate altogether
Okay.
on your real estate by adding beneficiaries directly to the property title.
Oh, wow.
This means the property would transfer automatically to your loved ones
Okay.
without going through the court process.
Wait, seriously? That sounds way simpler than dealing with probate.
Yeah.
What else do we need to know about real estate in Alberta?
Well, he dives into the Alberta Wills and Succession Act,
Okay.
which basically outlines the rules of the game for wills in our province. So it's essential to understand how this act
Right.
might impact your specific situation.
So adding beneficiaries to titles, understanding the Wills and Succession Act. Got it. What about those other Alberta-specific details like the Matrimonial Property Act?
Yeah, that's a crucial one,
Okay.
especially if you're married or in a common law relationship. So the Matrimonial Property Act dictates how property is divided between spouses. So it's essential to consider this when crafting your estate plan.
Okay, so we tackled the legal side of real estate,
Yeah.
but now it's time to face the dreaded T word, taxes.
I know, right?
Dun, 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 dun.
But it's not as scary as it sounds.
Okay.
So McKinnon breaks down the tax implications of real estate in Chapter 7.
Okay.
And it's actually pretty fascinating.
Okay, I'm cautiously optimistic. Tell me more. What key takeaways stood out to you?
Well, first he explains capital gains tax, which is the tax you pay on the profit from selling property. The good news for Canadians is that your primary residence is exempt
Okay.
from capital gains tax. So you don't have to worry about paying taxes when you sell the place you live.
That is good news.
It is.
But what about other properties like rental properties or vacation homes?
Yeah, so those are considered secondary properties, and they might be subject to capital gains tax.
Okay.
But McKinnon outlines some strategies to potentially minimize the tax burden,
Okay.
like setting up a trust or deferring capital gains.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom on the tax front.
Yeah.
Anything else specific to Alberta that we should know about?
Yeah, so here's another pleasant surprise. Alberta doesn't have a property transfer tax, like some other provinces do. However, you will have to pay registration fees when transferring property title.
Okay, so capital gains tax, registration fees, got it. Now let's circle back to those probate avoidance strategies you mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
Trusts seem like a really powerful tool,
they are.
but what other options are kind of available to us in Alberta?
Well, joint tenancy is another popular option, especially for couples. So if you jointly own a property with someone and one of you passes away, the ownership automatically transfers to the survivor.
Okay.
No probate required.
So if I own a cabin with my partner and something happens to me,
Yeah,
they automatically inherit the property.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
simple and effective.
Wow.
However,
Okay.
it's important to be aware of the potential downsides.
Okay.
For example, all joint tenants have equal ownership and decision-making power
Oh.
over the property, which can lead to disagreements.
So like if I want to paint the cabin turquoise,
Right.
but my partner prefers a more rustic look,
Exactly.
we might have a problem.
You might have a problem. So he suggests having a clear agreement in place
Right.
about how you'll handle decisions and potential disagreements.
Good point. What other options are there for Albertans who want to avoid probate?
Well, you can gift assets during your lifetime.
Okay.
So basically, you're transferring ownership of the property to someone else while you're still alive.
Okay.
This can be a great way to avoid probate,
Okay.
but it's important to consider the potential tax implications.
So, like, if I give my niece that antique teapot now,
Yeah,
I can avoid probate headaches later on.
potentially, yes.
Okay.
But remember, it's important to consult with a lawyer or tax advisor to understand the tax implications before making any major decisions.
Got it. Sounds like quite a few options to avoid probate in Alberta. Are there any strategies that are not available to us?
You might be surprised to learn that transfer on death agreements,
Okay.
which allow you to designate a beneficiary for your property outside of a will,
Right.
are not currently recognized in Alberta.
Really?
Yeah.
That seems so behind the times. Why aren't TOD agreements allowed here?
It's a bit of a mystery.
Okay.
A lot of people are pushing for their implementation. They offer a lot of flexibility
Mm-hmm.
and can really simplify estate planning.
Yeah.
But for now, we Albertans, we're sticking with joint tenancy, trusts, or gifting
Okay.
as our main probate avoidance options for real estate.
Okay. TOD agreements, not an option in Alberta yet.
Yep.
So if we want to avoid probate, stick to those tried and true methods we've discussed.
Yeah.
But what if, my financial situation is more complex? What if I have, high net worth or a
Yeah.
unique set of assets?
So that's where things can get really interesting.
Okay.
And he dedicates a whole section, section 5, to advanced techniques, specifically for those with high net worth or complex estates.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What kind of strategies are we talking about?
So, for example, he explains estate freezes,
Okay.
which is a way to potentially reduce the tax burden on future generations.
Mm-hmm.
So, in simple terms, an estate freeze increases the value of an asset
Okay.
at a certain point. So any future growth in value is attributed to someone else, typically your children or grandchildren.
Okay.
So for example, if your property value skyrockets after you implement an estate freeze,
Mm-hmm.
your kids would be the ones benefiting from that extra value.
Okay.
And since they're likely in a lower tax bracket, they would pay less in capital gains tax
Right.
when they eventually sell the property.
That sounds incredibly savvy, but I'm guessing the strategy is best left to the experts.
Definitely, yes. Estate freezes are complex
Okay.
and require expert guidance
Okay.
from a tax advisor and a lawyer.
Okay. Expert level estate planning for another day.
For another day.
But I'm still curious about those POAs and healthcare directives.
Yeah,
This seems super important, especially for Alberta, right?
absolutely. And he goes into detail on both of those in chapters 14 and 15.
Okay.
So for POAs, he explains the different types,
Mhm.
covering everything from general POAs that give broad financial and legal authority
Okay.
to enduring POAs that remain effective even if you lose capacity.
Gotcha.
He even dives into limited POAs,
Okay.
which are for specific tasks or a set time frame.
So if I want my best friend to handle selling my car, if I'm incapacitated,
Yes.
but not, say, manage my investments,
Exactly.
I'd set up a limited POA.
Exactly. So choosing someone you implicitly trust is, paramount.
Right.
And he explains Alberta's specific regulations around these documents so you know you're doing things right.
Perfect.
He also dives into healthcare directives, or personal directives as we call them in Alberta.
Right.
And he emphasizes how important it is to have those in place.
It sounds like they really give you a voice even when you can't speak for yourself
Mm-hmm.
and kind of take the burden of making those really tough medical decisions off your family's shoulders.
Yeah, giving your loved ones peace of mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered the core documents
Yeah.
and some Alberta-specific considerations, but, we live in a digital world.
Right.
So how does estate planning account for, say, my online banking info or those embarrassing social media posts from my youth?
I know, right. So estate planning isn't just about physical stuff anymore.
No.
And McKinnon tackles digital assets head-on in Chapter 16,
Okay.
reminding us that we need to consider things like online banking,
Mm-hmm.
social media accounts, even cryptocurrency, basically anything that exists online and has sentimental or financial value.
Okay. What about those digital photos and videos stored on my computer?
Yeah.
Those are priceless to me.
Absolutely.
But I have no idea how to include them in my estate plan.
So he emphasizes the need to include those types of files too.
Yeah.
And he provides practical tips on managing and transferring these digital assets so they're not lost or forgotten after you're gone.
Oh, this is all incredibly valuable information. But how do we make sure that our heirs are prepared for what we leave behind? I mean, it's not always just about the money, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
it's about family history,
Yeah.
sentimental value, or even, the emotional weight of receiving a treasured heirloom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And McKinnon really emphasizes the human side of estate planning
Okay.
in chapters 20 and 21.
Okay.
So he talks about the importance of preparing your heirs for what they'll receive, not just financially, but emotionally,
Right.
and the importance of communication,
Okay.
especially when dealing with family dynamics.
I can imagine those conversations about inheritance can get a little tense.
Oh, yeah.
How does he suggest navigating those potentially tricky conversations?
Yeah. He offers some great advice on how to minimize family drama and even talks about the power of legacy letters, which are personal messages that go beyond the legalities of a will
Mm-hmm.
and really express your values and hopes for your heirs.
Legacy letters, huh? What
Um,
makes them so special?
Well, they're a chance to really connect with your loved ones on a deeper level.
Okay.
Share your story, explain the why behind your decisions.
Okay, I'm officially intrigued by these legacy letters. Well, I'll have to dive deeper into those later on.
Mm-hmm.
But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive into estate planning, is there one surprising or intriguing fact from McKinnon's book that really stood out to you?
What I found fascinating
Yeah.
is that Alberta actually has the lowest probate fees in all of Canada.
Really?
It's only $525, regardless of the size of the estate.
You're kidding. You think with all the wealth in Alberta,
I know, right?
those fees would be sky high.
Exactly. It's a welcome surprise.
Yeah.
But remember, even with lower fees,
Right.
there are still benefits to potentially avoiding probate altogether
Yeah.
using the strategies we discussed.
Good point. So for our listeners who are just beginning to think about estate planning, what's one question that they can ponder as they continue their journey?
Well, if you could ensure just one thing was handled exactly as you wished after you were gone, what would it be?
Wow, that's a powerful question. It really makes you think about what truly matters. We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive, but in the meantime, I highly recommend checking out Estate Planning Made Simple, a step-by-step guide to protecting your legacy by Josh McKinnon.
Good book.
It's full of valuable insights and practical advice tailored specifically to us here in Alberta. Until next time.
See you then.
Welcome back to our deep dive into estate planning. Last time we kind of laid the groundwork, with wills and trusts and all those essential documents. But today we're going to kind of get into the nitty-gritty, exploring some fascinating details that often get overlooked.
Yeah, those little details can make a big difference
Absolutely.
when it comes to ensuring your wishes are truly carried out.
For sure. And one area that's particularly relevant in our digital age is protecting your online legacy.
Yes.
We touched on this briefly before, but I want to dive deeper. Think about it. All those online accounts we have.
Right.
Banking, email, social media, even things like online gaming accounts with virtual possessions.
It's easy to forget about those digital assets.
Yeah.
But they can hold, sentimental value or even financial value.
Absolutely. So what happens to all that when we're gone? Do our passwords magically get sent to the great cloud in the sky?
That would be so convenient.
Why?
But no, sadly no.
Okay.
McKinnon points out that without a plan, these digital assets can become lost, inaccessible, or even end up in the wrong hands.
Oh, no.
So imagine your family, not being able to access important financial records
Right.
or sentimental photos and videos because they don't have your passwords.
Okay, that's a digital nightmare I don't even want to think about. So how do we avoid that?
Well, McKinnon suggests a few key strategies. First, You want to create a comprehensive inventory of your digital assets.
Okay.
So we're talking about account details, passwords, security questions, and even use a password manager
Good
to
point.
keep everything organized and secure.
Password managers are lifesavers. I use one to keep track of all those random passwords I create and then promptly forget.
Exactly. And here's a little known fact. You can actually include instructions for accessing your password manager in your estate plan.
Oh, interesting. So it's like creating a digital will for all those online accounts.
In a sense, yes.
Okay.
So you're specifically stating who you want to inherit those assets and how you want them handled.
Now, what if I'm not comfortable sharing all my passwords with anyone, even my most trusted confidant?
Right.
Are there other options?
Absolutely. Some online services actually allow you to designate a legacy contact
Okay.
who can manage your account after you're gone. This gives them limited access to either manage or memorialize your account, depending on the platform's policies.
Okay, so inventory, access authorization, legacy contacts. Got it. Now let's talk about something that's really taken off in recent years. Cryptocurrency. How does that factor into estate planning?
Yeah, cryptocurrency, that's a unique challenge.
Right.
Because it's decentralized.
Right. It's the Wild West out there.
It is, and it doesn't follow the traditional financial rules.
So how do you pass it on if there's no bank or central authority to handle it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? So McKinnon dedicates a good chunk of Chapter 16 to navigating this world of cryptocurrency in estate planning, and he emphasizes the importance of clearly documenting your cryptocurrency holdings.
Yeah.
This includes wallet addresses, private keys, and any exchange accounts that you use.
Okay.
And he even suggests storing this information offline in a secure location, like a safe, or even engraved on a metal plate.
Engraved on metal? Now that's serious.
It is. Because think about it, those private keys are like the combination to a digital vault.
Right.
And if they're lost, your cryptocurrency is essentially gone forever.
Okay, I'm definitely getting the message. Protecting digital assets is a must-do for modern estate planning.
Absolutely. And it's an evolving area, especially here in Alberta, where the laws are still catching up.
Speaking of Alberta, let's circle back to real estate.
Yes.
A topic McKinnon knows a lot about. We talked about adding beneficiaries to titles to avoid probate, but he also dives into the use of trusts for real estate. Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, so trusts are incredibly versatile tools in estate planning, and they can be especially beneficial when it comes to real estate.
Okay.
So imagine you have a rental property
Okay.
that you want to leave to your children, but you're worried about them having to manage it all on their own.
Yeah, that's a valid concern. Being a landlord can be a lot of work.
Right. So you could actually set up a trust where a professional trustee manages the property
Oh, okay.
and distributes the income to your beneficiaries.
So the trust basically acts as a landlord for my kids and takes care of all the headaches?
Exactly.
Okay.
So it provides peace of mind knowing your property's being well managed
Yeah.
and your heirs are receiving the benefits without the stress.
Now that's what I call smart estate planning.
Yeah.
What other ways can trusts be used with real estate in Alberta?
Well, McKinnon explains how trusts can also be used to potentially protect your property from creditors or lawsuits.
Oh, okay.
So this is particularly important for business owners
Okay.
or those in high-risk professions.
So if my business goes belly up, my personal property is protected?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
But remember, it's always best to consult with a lawyer
Right.
specializing in trusts to ensure you're setting things up correctly.
Okay, noted. Now, I remember you mentioned a strategy called estate freezes earlier,
Yeah.
and it sounded pretty complex. Can you explain it in a way that even I, someone who struggles with balancing their checkbook, can understand?
So imagine your property value is like a snowball rolling downhill, getting bigger and bigger as it goes. An estate freeze is like stopping that snowball from growing any larger. So any new snow that falls, representing future growth and value, lands on a smaller snowball, maybe one representing your kids.
Gotcha.
So it's a way to potentially shift future appreciation to your heirs and reduce their eventual tax burden.
Okay, but that analogy actually makes sense, but I'm guessing this is not a DIY project.
No, definitely not. Estate freezes are complex and require expert guidance from a tax advisor and a lawyer.
Okay.
They can be incredibly powerful tools for high net worth individuals, but they need to be carefully crafted to comply with tax laws.
Okay, expert level estate planning for another day. But let's bring it back to the basics for a moment. What happens to our real estate when we pass away if we don't have any fancy trusts or estate freezes in place?
Well, if your real estate is included in your will, It becomes part of your estate and goes through probate, which, as we discussed, can be time-consuming and costly.
Right, but we've talked about ways to avoid probate with real estate, like joint tenancy and trust. What about those transfer on death agreements we discussed earlier?
Yeah.
They sound like such a simple solution.
They do, don't they?
Right.
Unfortunately, TOD agreements aren't currently recognized in Alberta. It's something a lot of people are advocating for.
Yeah.
But for now, we have to stick with those other methods.
Okay, so TOD agreements are a no-go in Alberta for now.
For now.
So if we want to avoid probate, stick with those tried and true methods we've discussed.
Exactly.
What other advice does McKinnon offer for managing real estate as part of our estate plans?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of understanding how Alberta's specific laws and regulations
Okay.
might impact your real estate holdings. For example, the Matrimonial Property Act can have a significant impact
Okay.
on how property is divided in a divorce or separation.
Right. So even with a solid estate plan, you still need to be aware of those Alberta-specific nuances.
Exactly. That's why working with a lawyer who specializes
Right.
in estate planning in Alberta is so crucial.
Okay.
They can help you navigate those legal intricacies and ensure that your plan is rock solid.
Okay. Let's shift gears for a moment
Okay.
and talk about those all-important digital assets again.
Mm-hmm.
We touched on them earlier, but I'm realizing they deserve even more attention,
Right.
especially given that Alberta's laws around digital assets are still evolving.
That's right. There's no specific legislation in Alberta right now
Oh, wow.
outlining how digital assets should be handled after someone passes away.
Seriously.
Okay.
So what happens to my social media accounts, online banking info, even that cryptocurrency we talked about?
It's a bit of a gray area,
Okay.
which is why it's even more crucial to be proactive and include clear instructions
Right.
in your estate plan.
Okay, so make sure your will includes how you want those digital assets to be handled.
Exactly.
What other advice does McKinnon offer for managing them?
Well, he recommends keeping a detailed inventory of all your digital assets. This includes account details, passwords, recovery information. Password Manager can be incredibly helpful for this.
Yeah, password managers are basically essential these days.
I agree.
Yeah.
And then be crystal clear in your estate plan about who you want to inherit these assets and what you want them to do with them. So, do you want them to close your social media accounts, memorialize them, continue using them?
Right.
It's important to spell it out.
This is making me realize how much we need to consider in this digital age. It's not just about dividing up physical possessions anymore.
No, it's not.
Oh, wow.
And it's an area that's constantly changing, so it's crucial to stay informed and adapt your estate plan as needed.
Okay, noted. Now, before we move on, I'm curious, what are your top 3 takeaways for Albertans when it comes to estate planning?
Okay, well, first,
Yeah.
remember that even though probate fees are low in Alberta,
Right.
you can still save time, money, and headaches by potentially avoiding probate altogether. Think joint tenancy, trusts, and gifting.
Solid advice. What else should our listeners keep in mind?
Don't underestimate the importance of communication.
Yeah.
Talk to your loved ones about your wishes. This is especially crucial if you have a blended family
Right,
or
yeah.
complex family dynamics.
Yeah.
Those conversations can prevent a lot of heartache down the road.
Communication is key. And for our final tip?
Embrace technology.
Oh, yeah.
Use those password managers,
Yeah.
digital storage solutions, online resources, anything that can help you streamline the process and protect those digital assets.
Excellent advice. Now, before we get too lost in the digital world,
Right.
let's bring it back to the human element of estate planning. I know McKinnon emphasizes the importance of not just preparing your heirs financially,
Yeah.
but emotionally as well.
That's right. And in chapters 20 and 21, he really dives into the emotional aspects
Okay.
of inheritance. So it's not enough to just write someone into a will.
Yeah.
You need to prepare them for what it actually means to inherit.
What do you mean by that?
Well, imagine inheriting a large sum of money or a family business.
Right.
It can be overwhelming,
Yeah.
especially if you haven't been prepared for that responsibility.
Right.
So McKinnon talks about the need for financial literacy
Mm-hmm.
and the importance of discussing your intentions with your heirs.
So it's not enough to just hand them a pile of money
No.
or a complicated asset and hope for the best. You need to have those conversations and provide guidance.
Absolutely. It's about setting them up for success,
Mm-hmm.
not just leaving them with a financial burden or a potential source of conflict.
That makes perfect sense. What other advice does McKinnon offer for preparing our heirs?
Well, he suggests introducing your heirs to your trusted advisors. So your lawyer, financial planner, accountant.
Right.
So This way, they have a support system in place when the time comes.
It's like setting up a team of mentors to guide them through the process.
Exactly. And remember those legacy letters
Yeah.
we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Those can be incredibly powerful tools for connecting with your heirs on an emotional level
Yeah.
and sharing your values.
Right. It's about more than just the dollars and cents.
Exactly.
It's about passing on those intangible things that make up a true legacy.
Absolutely.
Now, let's be real. Family dynamics can be complicated. What advice does McKinnon give for navigating those tricky waters when it comes to estate planning?
Well, he dedicates a whole chapter, chapter 21,
Okay.
to managing family expectations and dynamics.
Oh, wow.
He stresses the importance of open communication, transparency, and addressing potential conflicts head-on.
Easier said than done, right?
Okay.
I can imagine those conversations about inheritance can get heated.
Uh,
What are some of his key tips for keeping things civil?
Well, he suggests involving a mediator if necessary,
Oh, okay.
especially if you have a blended family or complex relationships. So a neutral third party can help facilitate those difficult conversations
Nice.
and find solutions that work for everyone.
So like a referee for estate planning.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
He also talks about the importance of documenting your decisions and explaining your reasoning to your heirs.
Right.
This can go a long way in preventing misunderstandings or hurt feelings down the road.
Transparency is key. Now, we've talked about preparing heirs and navigating family dynamics, but are there any other Alberta-specific challenges we should be aware of?
Yeah, so McKinnon highlights a few in Chapter 19, and he reminds us that Alberta has its own set of laws and regulations
Okay.
surrounding estate planning. So it's important to understand how these laws might affect your specific situation.
So I thought the whole point of having a will was to bypass the government's rules
Yeah.
and distribute your assets the way you want. So how do these Alberta laws come into play?
Yeah, well, a will gives you a great deal of control, but it still has to operate
Right.
within the legal framework of the province. So, for example, McKinnon highlights the Dependents Relief Act,
Okay.
which protects the rights of financially dependent family members, even if they're not specifically mentioned in your will.
Oh, wow. So even if I wanted to leave my entire fortune to my pet parrot,
Right.
the government could step in and say, hold on, what about your kids' college funds?
Yeah, it's not quite that dramatic.
Right.
But the point is that you can't completely disregard your legal obligations to dependents.
Yeah, okay.
He also points out that Alberta has its own Matrimonial Property Act,
Mm-hmm.
which, as we discussed earlier, can affect how assets are divided
Right.
during a divorce or separation.
That makes sense. So even if you have a solid estate plan, you still need to be aware of those Alberta-specific laws
Yes,
that might come into play.
that's right.
Gotcha.
It's another reason why working with a lawyer who specializes in estate planning in Alberta is so important.
This is a lot to take in, but I'm starting to feel more empowered than overwhelmed.
That's the spirit. Knowledge is power,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to something as important as your legacy.
Okay, so we've covered digital assets, real estate, those Alberta-specific laws. What other challenges might we encounter when planning our estates?
One area that often causes headaches, Sure. even for experienced estate planners,
Mm-hmm.
is managing ongoing trust operations.
Trust operations. That sounds a bit intimidating.
It can be,
Okay.
especially if you're dealing with a complex trust with multiple beneficiaries
Right.
or unique assets. And McKinnon dedicates Chapter 43 to this very topic
Okay.
and emphasizes the importance of selecting a qualified and experienced trustee,
Right.
someone who understands the legal and financial intricacies of trust management.
Okay, so if I set up a trust for my kids' education, I want a trustee who is knowledgeable about investments, tax implications, and all that fun stuff.
Exactly. They'll be responsible for making decisions
Right.
that align with the terms of the trust and benefit the beneficiaries.
What other challenges might pop up with trusts?
Well, McKinnon highlights the importance of record keeping, communication with beneficiaries, and regular reviews of the trust's performance.
Mm-hmm.
And he also points out that trusts can be subject to their own set of tax rules, so it's crucial to have a tax advisor
Okay.
on board.
So setting up a trust is just the first step. You need to actively manage it
Yeah.
to make sure it functions properly and fulfills its purpose.
Think of a trust like a living document. It needs to be nurtured and adapted
Okay.
over time to keep pace with changing circumstances.
That's a great analogy. It's like a financial garden that needs tending.
Exactly.
Okay.
And just like a garden, a well-maintained trust can flourish and provide benefits for years to come.
Okay, enough with the gardening metaphors.
I know, wait.
Let's talk about those brave souls who are tasked with carrying out our final wishes, the executors.
Yes.
So McKinnon dedicates several chapters to the role of the executor, starting with chapter 33.
Okay.
And he stresses the importance of selecting someone who is not only trustworthy and organized,
Right.
but also financially savvy
Yes.
and capable of navigating the complexities of estate administration.
That's a big job.
It sounds like a tall order. What specific qualities should we look for in an executor?
Well, he suggests looking for someone impartial, detail-oriented,
Okay.
comfortable with handling financial matters.
Mm-hmm.
They should also be a good communicator and able to work effectively with beneficiaries and professionals.
I'm starting to realize that being an executor is no easy task.
It's definitely a significant responsibility.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be taken lightly, so that's why he provides some helpful checklists
Okay.
and tips to guide executors through the process.
Okay.
He even suggests setting clear timelines and milestones for completing various tasks, which he covers in Chapter 42.
So it's like creating a project plan
Exactly.
for estate administration.
Exactly. So breaking down the tasks into manageable steps with deadlines
Right.
can make the whole process seem less daunting and overwhelming.
That makes sense. But what happens when things go wrong? What if there are disputes or unexpected challenges during estate administration?
Well, that's where Chapter 44 comes,
Mm.
in troubleshooting administrative challenges.
Okay.
And he offers practical advice on handling common issues.
Yeah.
So like unclear documentation,
Right.
missing assets, or conflicts between beneficiaries.
It seems like no matter what aspect of estate planning we're discussing, having expert guidance is crucial.
It is.
Yeah.
Estate planning involves a complex web of legal, financial, and emotional considerations.
Yeah.
And trying to navigate it all on your own can lead to costly mistakes or even family conflicts.
For sure.
So having a team of experts, a lawyer, financial planner, tax advisor, even a therapist if needed, can make all the difference.
Okay, consider this our official disclaimer. We are not experts,
No,
and we highly recommend seeking professional advice for your specific situation.
absolutely.
But we are enthusiastic learners
Yes.
who are excited to share what we've gleaned from McKinnon's book.
Yes, exactly. We're simply trying to provide you with a solid foundation of knowledge
Right.
and empower you to take those next steps in your estate planning journey.
Okay, back to those administrative challenges. What specific advice does McKinnon offer?
Well, he outlines a range of solutions,
Okay.
from mediation to court intervention,
Right.
depending on the specific issue.
Yeah.
But in most cases, he emphasizes the importance of communication, transparency, and staying organized.
Those seem to be recurring themes in effective estate planning no matter what aspect we're discussing.
They are the foundation of a successful
Yeah.
and smooth estate administration process.
Now let's talk tech again. I know McKinnon dedicates Chapter 45 to ensuring technological adaptation
Yes.
in estate management. It seems like technology is playing an increasingly important role
Absolutely.
in all aspects of estate planning.
Yes, and as we discussed earlier, it's particularly important when
Right.
it comes to managing those digital assets.
Especially here in Alberta, where the laws are still catching up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's more important than ever to stay ahead of the curve
Mm-hmm.
and incorporate technology into your estate management strategy.
What specific tech tips does McKinnon offer?
Well, he suggests using password managers to secure and organize your digital accounts, creating backups of important files, and even exploring cloud-based storage solutions.
Those are all good practices even outside of estate planning.
They are.
Yeah, what about using technology to manage the estate itself?
Well, he talks about the benefits of estate management software,
Okay.
which can help executors track assets, communicate with beneficiaries, and streamline that entire administration process.
Oh, so there are apps for that.
There are apps for everything these days.
I'm starting to realize that estate planning has gone digital.
It has, and it's only going to become more tech-focused as time goes on.
Wow.
So McKinnon stresses the importance of staying informed about new technologies
Right.
and adapting your estate plan accordingly.
Okay, so we've covered the legal aspects, the financial considerations, the practicalities of administration, even the tech side of estate planning. Is there anything else we need to consider?
Yes.
Okay.
McKinnon reminds us that estate planning is about more than just the logistics. It's about creating a legacy that reflects your values.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
It is.
It's about making a meaningful impact even after you're gone.
Exactly. And he dedicates Chapter 47
Oh, wow.
to this very topic, crafting a values-based estate plan.
Okay, I love the sound of that. Tell me more.
So he suggests starting by defining your core values.
Okay.
So what principles are most important to you and your family?
Okay.
What do you want to be remembered for?
That sounds like a soul-searching exercise. Almost like writing a personal mission statement for your life.
It is.
Wow.
So are you passionate about education, environmental conservation, social justice,
Mm-hmm.
animal welfare? Identifying those driving forces can help shape a legacy that extends far beyond just dividing up your possessions.
Okay, so once we've identified those core values, how do we translate them into an actual estate plan?
That's where the creativity comes in, and he offers a range of strategies. For example, you can establish charitable trusts or endowments to support causes that you care about.
Okay.
I can imagine the possibilities are endless. Supporting a local art program for underprivileged kids, funding research for a disease that's touched your family, even preserving a piece of land that you love for future generations to enjoy.
Exactly. It's about aligning your financial decisions with your values
Yes.
and ensuring your legacy continues to have a positive impact on the world, even after you're gone.
Exactly.
What other strategies does he suggest?
Well, you can also use trusts to encourage your heirs to live by those values.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, you might include provisions that incentivize them to volunteer their time, pursue a certain career path, or even donate a portion of their inheritance to a charity that aligns with your values.
It's almost like planting seeds of intention that will hopefully blossom into actions that reflect your beliefs.
I love that analogy. You're not
Exactly.
just passing on wealth, you're passing on values.
Now, we've talked a lot about communicating with your loved ones throughout this whole estate planning process.
Yes.
But when it comes to ensuring our values and intentions are truly understood, especially by future generations who might not know us personally,
Right.
what's the best approach?
That's where those legacy letters we've mentioned a few times really shine. They're not your typical legal document.
Okay.
They're heart-to-heart messages that go beyond the legalities of a will.
Okay, I'm ready for the full download on legacy letters. What makes them so special?
So imagine your grandchild, years from now, reading a letter that you wrote,
Mm-hmm.
understanding why you made certain decisions in your estate plan,
Yeah.
feeling connected to you in a way that goes beyond just inheriting a sum of money.
Wow, that gives me chills.
Yeah,
It really brings home the emotional power
it does.
of estate planning. What kind of things should we include in these letters?
Well, he suggests using them to explain why you've chosen certain beneficiaries, why you're passionate about specific causes, or what life lessons you've learned that you want to share. You can even use them to express your hopes and dreams for your loved ones. It's about leaving behind a piece of your heart.
I'm starting to see estate planning in a whole new light.
I'm glad.
It's not just about dividing up your stuff. It's about crafting a story that continues to unfold long after you're gone.
Absolutely. It's a creative process, a way to shape your legacy
Right.
and make a lasting impact.
And it's a journey, not a destination.
Right.
We need to be adaptable
Absolutely.
and revisit our plans as our lives evolve.
That's right, because life throws those curveballs.
Right.
And it's important to ensure your estate plan can handle them.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, before we wrap things up,
Yeah.
is there anything else we need to remember as we navigate this ongoing process of estate planning?
Well, I've definitely learned that it's never too early to start
Yes.
and that it's essential to seek professional guidance to make sure everything is legally sound.
Absolutely. Those are both crucial, but I think the most important takeaway, and the
Yeah.
one that really stuck with me from McKinnon's guide, is this. Estate planning, when approached with intention and care, is ultimately an act of love.
I love that. It's a way to care for your loved ones even after you're gone.
Exactly. It's about providing for their well-being,
Yeah.
minimizing stress during a difficult time, and leaving a legacy that reflects your values.
Well said.
And remember, getting started is often the hardest part.
Right.
So once you take that first step, whether it's having a conversation with your loved ones, listing your assets,
Yeah.
or seeking professional guidance, the rest will fall into place.
That's encouraging. So, to our listeners, are there any final words of wisdom you want to impart
Yeah.
as they embark on their own estate planning journeys?
Don't be afraid to embrace the process. It can be a rewarding experience,
Nope.
a chance to reflect on your life, clarify your values, and create a lasting legacy that truly reflects who you are.
Beautiful. And remember, if you're looking for a comprehensive and easy-to-understand guide to navigate this whole process, check out Estate Planning Made Simple. A step-by-step guide to protecting your legacy by Josh McKinnon. It's full of valuable insights, practical advice, and even a touch of humor to keep you engaged.
We've had a blast diving deep into this topic with you.
It's been an enlightening journey.
Yeah.
Until next time, folks.
Yes.
Take care of yourselves,
Yeah.
your loved ones, and your legacy.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into estate planning. We've covered a lot of ground, from wills and trusts to digital assets and those tricky Alberta-specific laws.
It's been quite a journey, but we've saved the best for last, the heart and soul of leaving a lasting legacy.
I'm ready for it.
Good.
We've talked about logistics and legalities, but I'm excited to explore, how we can infuse our estate plans with our values.
Yes.
Those guiding principles that make us who we are.
That's what McKinnon calls crafting a values-based estate plan.
And he dedicates chapter 47 to this very topic.
Okay, I'm all ears. Where do we begin?
He suggests starting with a simple but powerful question. What are your core values? What principles are most important to you?
Okay.
What do you want to be remembered for?
That's a deep question. It feels almost like a soul-searching exercise, like writing a personal mission statement for your life, but with an eye toward the future.
Exactly. Think about what truly matters to you. Are you passionate about education, environmental conservation, social justice, animal welfare? Identifying those driving forces can help shape a legacy that extends far beyond just dividing up your possessions.
Okay, so once we've identified those core values, how do we translate them into an actual estate plan?
That's where the creativity comes in. Yeah. And McKinnon offers a range of strategies.
Okay.
For example, you can use charitable trusts or endowments to support causes you care about.
I can imagine the possibilities are endless. Supporting a local arts program for underprivileged kids, funding research for a disease that's touched your family, even preserving a piece of land that you love for future generations to enjoy.
Exactly. It's about aligning your financial decisions with your values and ensuring your legacy continues to have a positive impact on the world even after you're gone.
What other strategies does he suggest?
Well, you can also use trusts to encourage your heirs to live by those values. Yeah. For example, you might include provisions that incentivize them to volunteer their time, pursue a certain career path, or even donate a portion of their inheritance to a charity that aligns with your values.
It's almost like planting seeds of intention that will hopefully blossom into actions that reflect your beliefs.
It is. You're not just passing on wealth, you're passing on values.
Now, we've talked a lot about communication throughout this whole estate planning process.
Yes.
But when it comes to ensuring our values and intentions are truly understood, especially by future generations who might not know us personally, what's the best approach?
That's where those legacy letters we've mentioned a few times really shine. Correct. They're not your typical legal documents. They're heartfelt messages that go beyond the legalities of a will, giving you a chance to connect with your loved ones on a deeper level.
Okay, I'm ready for the full download on legacy letters, what makes them so special.
Imagine your grandchild, years from now, reading a letter that you wrote, understanding why you made certain decisions in your estate plan, feeling connected to you in a way that goes beyond just inheriting a sum of money.
Wow. That gives me chills.
Yeah.
It really brings home the emotional power of estate planning. What kind of things should we include in these letters?
Well, McKinnon suggests using these letters to explain why you've chosen certain beneficiaries, why you're passionate about specific causes, or what life lessons you've learned that you want to share. You can even use them to express your hopes and dreams for your loved ones. It's about leaving behind a piece of your heart.
I'm starting to see estate planning in a whole new light. It's not just about dividing up your stuff. It's about crafting a story that continues to unfold long after you're gone.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's a creative process, a way to shape your legacy and make a lasting impact.
And it's a journey, not a destination, right?
That's right.
We need to be adaptable and revisit our plans as our lives evolve.
Absolutely. Life throws curveballs, and it's important to ensure your estate plan can handle them.
Speaking of which, before we wrap things up, is there anything else we need to remember as we navigate this ongoing process of estate planning?
Well, I definitely learned that it's never too early to start.
Right.
And that it's essential to seek professional guidance to make sure everything is legally sound.
Those are both crucial, but I think the most important takeaway, the one that really stuck with me from McKinnon's guide, is this. Estate planning, when approached with intention and care, is ultimately an act of love.
I love that. It's a way to care for your loved ones even after you're gone.
Exactly. It's about providing for their well-being, minimizing stress during a difficult time, and leaving a legacy that reflects your values. Well said.
And remember, getting started is often the hardest part. So once you take that first step, whether it's having a conversation with your loved ones, listing your assets, or seeking professional guidance, the rest will fall into place.
That's encouraging. So to our listeners, are there any final words of wisdom you'd like to impart as they embark on their own estate planning journeys?
Don't be afraid to embrace the process.
Yeah.
It can be a rewarding experience, a chance to reflect on your life, clarify your values, and create a lasting legacy that truly reflects who you are.
Beautiful. And remember, if you're looking for a comprehensive and easy-to-understand guide to navigate this whole process, check out Estate Planning Made Simple, a step-by-step guide to protecting your legacy by Josh McKinnon. It's full of valuable insights, practical advice, and even a touch of humor to keep you engaged.
It's a good one.
It has been an absolute pleasure diving deep into this topic with you
Likewise.
and with our listeners. Until next time, everyone, take care of yourselves,
Yes.
your loved ones, and your legacy.